Lewis was in support of it, saying it's cool that sport is continuously growing and evolving, and they're not just doing the same thing they've done in the past. They're trying new things, trying to improve the show always, and I'm in full support of it. Nat, what did you make of it watching at home?
Look, I absolutely loved it. We're in the entertainment industry, for goodness sake, and this is something that we should embrace, look forward to. I know there are critics of it. I can't begin to pretend what it feels like to get into a car and drive 200 miles an hour. I just love the fanfare. The Americans know how to do sport, all singing, all dancing, jazz hands, the works. And it was captivating watching from home well, we just had the coronation, which was, pretty spectacular within itself, but it was a dreary old day back in the UK, and I just loved the sunshine and the razzmatazz. And yeah, as I'm going to throw George's quote back at him, that's how we roll. Take it, baby.
Very good, very good. Martin, Fernando Alonso said that it's if we're going to do it for the fans in Miami, why are we not doing it for the fans in Italy or Spain or wherever we go on the Formula One calendar? Do you think it's something that needs to be one size fits all for every race, or something that we kind of modify depending on where we are?
Well, I think it's a fair comment. Why would we just do it in America or wherever? But we have to accept we've got a new audience. The demographic age group of our audience has changed a lot in recent years. In Formula One's grown dramatically, and we need something for everybody. Obviously, as a man of a certain age, I perhaps am less need that sort of showy stuff. I thought it was a bit two-dimensional, if I'm honest. They'd already seen the drivers anyway on the driver parade in some old jalopies and gave them away. I found it odd that it had its back to the grid. We couldn't see it. It was sort of... and it was... I don't know, did it really add anything? Some sort of generic lines and the drivers come out. But I'm very open to change. I think you have to keep your mind open on this. But what I do think is when the green light goes on and the cars leave the pits, that's a moment of very high energy for Formula One, where we're getting close to the Grand Prix. And then what happens after that? And this army of people and equipment and these beautiful racing cars and the finest drivers in the world all heading to the grid. And I think you need to keep that energy. And what happened 26 years ago was some very creative people I was working with in F1 on F1 TV were like, they came up with the grid walk idea because they wanted to keep the energy between the green light and the start and the formation lap and sort of keep it on the boil. And my concern is things like that let the boil go and let it sort of fade away a bit. So we have to think about that. But we can't just keep doing the same old thing decade in, decade out. I accept that. Whether that adds to it, whether we could do it at a different time and just go to the grid and go hard racing, because we used to go to the grid 30 minutes before. Now it's 50 minutes before the weekend. It's open for debate, but it didn't add anything for me being there on the day. It's just when I hate to see those shots of the drivers loitering in their garage, almost playing cards or something. They're off the grid. They don't want to be around. They just go and lose 20 minutes somewhere. So that doesn't feel energetic enough to me.
Yeah, I think, you've got to think about when we go to Vegas, where everyone's going to have grand plans, but guess what? It's going to be 6 degrees at that time of the night in the desert in November, and the drivers will definitely want to be back in the motorhomes or the pits trying to keep warm. So I think it's a good point. I mean, what they do in IndyCar, I think, could be the answer, where they do this driver presentation, but it's done like a couple of hours before the race. So sort of the time where we do the drivers parade in F1, and they do this big razzmatazz for the people at the ground. But then, the build-up, as Martin said, is still a shorter time with a more compact, high-energy intro. So, yeah, maybe as I say, it needs a bit of tweaking, and that's a better balance.